Speakers Bank Podcast. Our voices, our views.
Hello, this is Tom Robbins, your host, and welcome back to the Speakers Bank Podcast. Joining me today is Joan from the Western Region Manager for Annecto. And this is my co-host, Catherine. How are you going today?
Thank you.
That's good. And today's topic will be about the NDIS. Yes, that lovely word, that four-letter word. We're talking about a range of topics, so stick to it. What is the NDIS and what does it mean for people with disabilities, John?
Well, I think NDIS is a new way of thinking, it's a new opportunity, it's a challenge. It's a whole lot of things, really.
A lot of things.
It certainly is a challenge for, I think, a wide range of people, for service providers.
This is my first funding. I never had funding. I've only had the DSD, so this is good for me.
So you didn't go through the DHS funding, all right. So people who've been through DHS funding, it's a challenge. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think it's trying to change the direction of disability and put the power and control back into the people who are receiving the funding.
So just to clarify for the viewers, if people are receiving DHS funding, that doesn't apply to NDIS, correct? It'll be cut off.
Yes, so DHS give NDIS the names of the people and they transition from DHS funding into NDIS funding.
Mm-hmm.
Once you transfer to NDIS, your DHS funding stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is NDIS plan?
This is a really important part of the whole transition. So we call it at Annecto initially pre-planning. There's a process to get to the plan. So we do pre-planning with most of the people we support, and that's around thinking, what do I need? What is it that I'm really wanting to do with my life? And for some people it's a total change. For others it's exactly the same. But the plan, the NDIS plan, outlines the goals for the person and then how they achieve it and then the amount of funding, and that's what the NDIS plan is. But it's the bits before that that's so important.
So in terms of like NDIS plan, is that sort of like telling people what they need in their general lifestyle, what supports they currently need and things like
It outlines what the person has said they want. So the step to getting the plan is that normally they'll work with a number of people to do the pre-planning. Then they'll meet with the planner, which is often the local area coordinator or sometimes it's the NDIS planner. And the planner listens to what the person wants. And then they transcribe that into the plan. So it's not so much the planner telling you what you want, it's the planner listening and then writing down saying, this is what it is.
This is what it needs or she needs.
Yeah, no, this is what she says she needs. Yeah, so they don't make it up, they listen to you and say, this is what you've said you need. And that's why you need to go prepared. So you really put a lot of thought into what you're wanting and you'll know what you're wanting and you are able to say that at the plan meeting.
So what will the NDIS not fund?
Well, you've been through planning, haven't you? Have you got that experience?
I will share some of my experiences. So one of the things they will not fund is realistic goals that you can pay for yourself. Like for example, they're not going to help you pay for the groceries, they're not going to help you pay for your internet or your phone. Because that's not realistic supports for your disability, that's a luxury item. So that's one thing. And number two is that they will not fund your sort of like other additional needs that you can pay for yourself. For example, if you want to go to a football game, if you want to go to a movie, they will not fund it because that's out of your pocket. They will fund things that help ease the pain and pressure that your disability provides each and every day.
So they'll pay for a support worker to take you.
That's right.
To wherever you need to go if you can't go alone.
That's right. But you see, the trick in here is they will pay for the support worker, but they will not pay for your desired item. For example, if you wanted to go to a movie, they'll pay for your support worker, but they won't pay for the movie itself.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. It's very tricky, but that's what I've been told.
Because in the past, DHS sometimes would fund for your football club membership.
Correct.
Yeah, whereas you're right, yes, they don't do that now, but it's what you said, Catherine. They fund you if you require support to get there. That's the funding you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's more in line with mainstream, isn't it, in that respect?
yeah,
Yes.
I feel like a DIS is a bit of mainstream in it as well, because for the person that needs its support, they don't have to really go. If they don't need to go to this, they can do it independently, but they've got the support through the NDIS.
But what I like about it too is it teaches the person who has the special needs to budget their money,
Yeah.
to understand that this is how much it costs. If you want to do this, this is what you're going to have to do. We'll help you, but we won't do it for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
So
giving the person with special needs the empowerment that they need.
Yes.
Because I'm in the process of moving out with 2 friends, and with my NDIS funding, I will have a home help that will come and help with a bit of cleaning for me, and probably help me look at my budgeting
Very
and
important.
all the main, just a bit of support. So that's what the NDIS will fund, but not fund for the rent.
So it's what you said, Storm. It's about that empowerment, isn't it? And you're in control of what you say you want to be funded for.
That's right.
But the change is, though, that some of that used to be funded under DHS, under the old funding schemes. And so I guess that's the challenge, one of the challenges. It's saying, no, hang on, I can do this, because that's just like my siblings.
And
But I need extra support, so I get the supports for that.
It's going to be harder for you, Joan, because you feel like you've been so used to this old system. Like, people don't understand how difficult it is for an organisation like yourself to be you're so used to doing it one way, and then all of a sudden you got to do it another way, and then you got to somehow tell them nicely and gently that no, we don't do that anymore. We don't pay for your luxury items.
I think that is one of the, you really hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of workers want to do everything, to support a person, but we're all having to learn to step back and say, no, we don't do this, but we can do this. So we're actually setting parameters and clearer boundaries around what we can do and can't do. But that's been really difficult for staff.
Very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult indeed.
What are the steps in getting my NDIS plan?
So I'm not too sure what steps you went through, but from my perspective of where I am, we already supported a lot of people who were receiving DHS funding. So they just transitioned through. DHS, as I said earlier, would give the names, and so there was a rollout of for everyone. So it was fairly simple. For people who haven't had DHS funding, I think it's quite difficult. And you can talk about it,
yes.
I think you can both talk about that more
Yes.
clearly.
So my funding experience was pretty simple, strange but simple. So what happened was, when I turned 18, I left the Royal Children's Hospital, lovely hospital, and then after that I didn't get any funding, because when I talked to the actual McKillop Family Services or those other organisations that took care of your funding packages, because they had a case manager. It's not called a case manager anymore, it's called a support coordinator, for those that don't know what that is. They're the ones that were responsible for my funding packages. But they turned around and said to me that we don't think you need the funding packages, because you have both parents that are fairly young and they can still look after you. What they failed to realise is age doesn't stop. They keep getting older and older. So as the years gone by, my mum couldn't take me to the park anymore, or my dad couldn't go shopping as much as he used to help me get the food. Stuff like that. Small things. And that's where I fell into the cracks, and I had to start paying for my physio out of my pocket and stuff like that, because with the GP plan, the healthcare plan that you get, the 5 GP visits, once those runs out, you have to pay for yourself, and that was a very costly, but I had to do it. But
with me, I only had the DSP, the pension. I went through mainstream all through, and I didn't I didn't really have the connection with people like-minded myself. So this is all like, I'm around mostly able-bodied people, which they've all got, you know, uni friends, work colleagues, we've got, you know, and all that kind of stuff, which people in our shoes, we don't really have, because we're just a little bit different. So when I left school, I kind of fell through the gap. I didn't have much in work. And
No, I didn't either.
Build on that
skill set
yeah.
that you had, yeah.
But working at the UK cafe was good, but that kind of fell through. But the staff were terrible. It was just, you know, it shouldn't have been how it should. But now when the NDIS came, this is my first line of support I'm going to get and to be independent.
I just find it amazing that Catherine, who has a living disability, and that's her first level of support for many, many years. It's just amazing. And I'm sure Catherine's not the only one.
No.
And you probably hear it every day,
Yes.
Joan.
That is one of the things I've observed with since the introduction of NDIS. A lot of people who didn't receive funding or only got pockets of it, limited funding, are now getting quite good packages, and I find that really encouraging. And you hear about that a lot, that a lot of new people are coming in now with funding who should have been getting funding, but they just didn't meet the criteria at that time.
Oh, that's why. That's
Yeah.
why. It wasn't because they didn't know we had a disability. It was because we didn't tick the boxes.
Yeah, because a lot of it is ticking boxes, but and that will always stay. But it's just they've broadened the scope of people now who can receive support, which I think's. That's why I really like NDIS. It really gives more people more opportunities.
So how will the Annecto collaborate with the NDIS?
So we work closely with NDIA, and when we go, we always give the families the opportunity to have someone represent them or support them at a meeting. So most families will take that opportunity when we say, look, we're happy to go with you. Not all families, but we certainly provide that choice for them. And then what's happened, because we're going to so many, the planners know what we're doing and they trust what we're doing. So we do fairly well at a lot of the planning meetings we go to. We can have some really good conversations with them and really support our families fairly strongly. It is a fairly challenging exercise, I think, for people who haven't had to go and say, this is what I want. They were always told what they wanted before, whereas this time, you'd know when you went, not having been through it before, you've got to actually advocate for yourself.
Yeah, and I found
everyone needs an advocate.
I found that very confronting, because telling someone you don't even know about your personal life is very, very hard, and it's not easy. There are some very embarrassing parts, some very parts you don't want to talk about, but you have to do it. And I encourage everyone to do it, because there have been a couple of people who have talked to me and said that I feel embarrassed that I have to put down my son like that and I have to tell him my struggles and that, or my daughter. And I've turned around and said to them, no, it's not, because at the end of the day, the worse you make it, the better it is for your son or daughter at the end of the day. And then you'll know from then on that if something were to happen to either parents, that they would be well looked after.
I understand that parents are very protective or sometimes feel ashamed because your child's just a little bit different. There is no shame whatsoever. We just got to love and accept and educate people that we're just people. There may be just a little bit of challenges within them and people like us, but it's okay. And it's always good to talk and try and find the right support that's going to cater for your child and yourself.
Yeah, and I remember Catherine meeting with a group of parents one evening, and they talked about feeling embarrassed having to ask for extra supports. And as they said, it's like what you said, they were aging parents, and they just felt like they were taking more money from the government. It was a really interesting conversation, but it was a big step for the parents to have to say, we're getting old, we can't do all of this for ourselves. And what I have noticed happening with NDIS is that a lot of parents who are aging, their sons and daughters are getting bigger packages because they talk about it not as respite for the parents, but as this is a support for personal need.
Yeah.
And because the parents can't do it, so therefore their son or daughter will need it. And some people are doing, getting quite reasonable packages now, which will make life easier within the home. And it gives a lot of parents the opportunity to go back to being a parent and not a carer, which I think is it's a change of way of thinking.
Yeah.
And some carers, they don't feel comfortable with that change of role. Like I've had to talk to some of the carers who are on NDIS, and they feel like they don't know what to do with themselves. And I think, and I say to them, look, you've got to be able to live your life as well, and not just be like a stopgap for people.
And they've had that role since the child was born.
Exactly.
And so to change that is not easy, because that's how they define themselves. So I think this is the big thing about NDIS. It's how do people define themselves, and how and how does the community define the person. So it's a massive change, and I think it's very challenging. It's it's a fantastic step, but I think it's a very difficult step for a lot of people.
Okay, so we've talked about the nuts and bolts, but what are the requirements of getting a different sort of like funding program for the NDIS?
So you have to have a disability, but it's a range of disabilities. So I'll just give you an example.
Sure.
We've supported people who have had MS, which we didn't support a lot of people with MS before. Obviously they're getting more eligible for packages now. A lot of people with mental health problems. So it's a range of disabilities. So they'll have multiple disabilities, which is, I think those people kind of fell into that box or that box or that box. Whereas now it's just in NDIS, so they're getting quite a good package. But you just have to show that you've got a disability and the need.
So I think the issue is not showing that you have a disability. The issue is getting enough evidence to prove that you have the disability. Because to get my sort of like funding packages, I had to go to my hospital and my doctor to prove it. It wasn't enough that I wrote down my own words and my own experiences. I had to get proof from professionals. So
I would agree with
that. That was very difficult.
So when we do pre-planning, we do ask people to bring in medical documentation from a range of medical people or other people, special schools, etc., to say this is, I do have a disability. You're right, yeah. So they do have those requirements, yeah.
What supports will be funded by NDIS?
From my observation, so we've been now about 2.5 years working with it. There's support coordination, which is for people who need someone to coordinate the supports. But it's what's called core supports and then therapy supports. There's a lot in therapy support, so now psychologists, all therapists
I'm
are
very
funded.
happy with that. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because that was a very costly exercise for a lot of people.
Costly.
And people are getting quite well funded for that. But it's just a range of home supports, personal care supports, community access supports, holidays. They like to see everyone having a holiday.
Oh, definitely.
I would love to go on holiday.
Yeah, I know.
With friends.
Yeah. One of the things I think that's really good is they're really willing to support people who want to get into employment. The pick-up of that is still, or the take-up is that still fairly slow, but and I think that's for a variety of reasons, and that a lot of people don't see themselves as being able to get a job because of their past experiences.
Yeah.
But there is certainly funding for people who wish to do that and sort of learning too.
What I like about it, Joan, from my experiences with the NDIS with getting a job, is that when you do get on the system, they can't sort of take you back when the funding pool for your particular job is finished. It's a requirement by the government to try to keep you on to the sort of job, which is fantastic, which is what we wanted.
Yes. Yeah,
So
that is really good.
that's one of the major positives the NDIS has brought to people with disabilities.
I think the other thing they're funding too a lot is assistive technology.
Yes.
So they're really looking at what's out there that can make this easier for a person. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to be looking at because, as we know, technology is just improving every day and it's incredible what comes out.
Life-changing stuff.
It is life-changing stuff,
Yeah.
that's right. And I think it's really important we're aware of what's out there so we can tap into that.
how does Annecto help and support people with disability? What are the services currently provided by Annecto in relation to NDIS?
So we, as I said earlier, we do pre-planning with all of our families. So we've given a lot of information sessions initially, and then we went from that into, and they were always group information sessions. Then we went into group pre-planning sessions so that parents could share ideas. Then we did individual pre-planning sessions.
That would have been a lot of work.
Yeah, it's been an enormous amount of work, but I think it was great learning for us. We've kind of learned what we need to be doing, and NDIS is an ongoing learning, but we have seen the absolute importance of doing your pre-planning properly. I think that's probably the most important thing. We're now suggesting people go to more public information sessions because there's still some of those around. The councils around a lot of information.
A lot. My local area runs probably, at least 2 or 3 a month.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fantastic to see the council, because then you get a wide group of people coming, so you can listen to other people. One of the things we learned from our information sessions and our group pre-planning sessions was the sharing of ideas. And people said, oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's a great idea. And it was really like a light bulb going on for people and giving them permission to think differently. So, because often you just think that same way, whereas this really gave these sessions gave people the opportunity to think really differently.
Well, unfortunately, because the way the system has been designed, we've only had to think one way.
Yes.
And now with the NDIS coming through, we can think other ways, and other possibilities.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to my coordinator, and she was reading it, and she's saying, oh, you could do this, or you could do that. And I didn't think at the time, because I'm like, oh, okay. So if I added an extra hour here, I could get more gym time over here. Stuff like that, because I'm pre-planning.
Yeah.
And that's the options that they can give you.
I think it's invaluable. That's probably one of our biggest learnings, is the importance of that pre-planning. Because if you have a number of conversations, it's really good for the organisation, because it makes you think, we need to be thinking differently. It gives the family the opportunity to think differently, and it also gives the opportunity for their son or daughter or family member to challenge, because it's in a safe setting and say, we could do that, but I'd really rather do this.
Exactly.
And because it's an open conversation, you see people's
debating.
Yes, debating and really changing the way they're thinking and planning things.
Yeah.
Will the NDIS funding affect my pension?
No, you still get your pension. Yeah, you still get that. What it does affect is your mobility allowance, but that goes into your NDIS plan. So there's set amounts, which I think you've had an experience with.
Yes. So with my mobility allowance, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get onto the system for whatever reason. But like you've said, Joan, that when the NDIS comes through, that will be cut off, because that will be all your transport sort of funding will go into your NDIS funding, and that will be an ongoing payment into your other NDIS account. And I strongly recommend for those people who are watching this, is if they are on the NDIS, is to have a separate account, so that way they don't overuse their disability support payments from the NDIS. There's nothing worse than mixing up your shopping payment with your NDIS payment. So make sure you have 2 separate accounts. That's an absolute must.
Yeah.
And make sure you include transport in it, that you do ask for it, because everyone needs to travel around, so make sure you do include it.
So will Annecto help you to assist in all requirements for NDIS funding?
So we, well, as I said, we really do, right from the start to the end. So we offer the pre-planning, we offer support coordination and core supports. So it is, right through. And we're really, our learnings from this is that as they get used to it, people want to change things. And so we're happy to work with the person and say, oh, all right, let's change the way this direction and go down that direction. If the plan is not sufficient or the person's not happy with it, we'll support the person for asking for a review of the plan. And we do, there's the 8-week and then the 9-month review. We really consult closely with that to make sure that's working really well. And so we're not about to advocate, but we do support the person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and you will always pinpoint, maybe there's a particular area that you should work on.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
there's like a big mistake that they've done.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. The other thing is often people's disabilities, you know, as they age, they deteriorate. And so it's really looking for that. And so we would be putting that into a plan too. Saying, you know,
absolutely.
so just because you've got, say, X amount for the year one, if it's a degenerative disease, you need to be planning for that. And it's being aware of those.
And
types
that's
of
why
issues.
it's a yearly review. It's not a locked-in plan, so you can change it year after year based on your disability needs.
Mm.
And that's something a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand that this is not a locked-in contract. It's
That's right,
a
yes.
freedom to choose between year after year.
Yeah, which is really good. Yeah. So you stay in control
Exactly.
of your plan.
Is there a certain amount of funding per family or per person?
No, that's not our observation at all, that every person's got a different amount. So it depends on what they take to the planning session. So it's been interesting. I mean, we've got some people we're supporting who receive 2-to-1 funding and others receive, you know, group funding. So it's, you know, quite a range. And some parents, as you say, you know, they wanted your parents to manage it. Well, we've got a lot of parents who are older and they can't, it's
Exactly.
too difficult. So they take each person fairly individually, which I think, the only set amount seems to be the transport. There's, I think, 3 amounts for transport. But everything else is really based on the individual.
Do Annecto add fees on top of the services that they provide?
So we run, we try and build all those extras into the plan. So we run a learning and lifestyle program, which is run every day. Most of the people, we've asked for transport, so that covers their bus transport, so we're not having to build them over and above, which we used to. And program fees, some people will be asked to pay extra program fees if they're doing a lot more, but a lot of it will come out of what they're asking for. So, no, we try and do everything within their plan.
Do you guys see yourselves in 5 years' time to be like a support coordinator or a support manager or
That's a
something like that?
really interesting question. Where will it go? And I think this is a challenge for all organisations. We're aware that under support coordination, people may not keep the support coordination ongoing. It will decrease over a period of time. So I think organisations are looking at how to remain sustainable. There's a lot of conversations going on between peak organisations and NDIA around the rate for that agencies get reimbursed. And I have to say, I think NDIA has been very responsive. I think they're really working well with agencies, but it's a big machine, and so
It
it
is,
moves slowly.
yeah.
But I really do see NDIA as really listening and trying to make this work. So it's in their interest that agencies survive, and I think, so where it will go, we're not 100% sure. I think Annecto will become, will have an arm that provides a lot of information to people around NDIA and how to navigate their way through NDIA. I think that's really important because there'll be new people coming up all the time. I think we're closely watching just the costings for support coordination and core. We play a fairly active role in with the peak body NDIS. And how much money is required to make an organisation run. And we're constantly reviewing our practices and processes to see, does this suit NDIA? Are we true to the vision of NDIA and NDIS in what we're doing, and how do we remain sustainable?
So just to summarise for you guys on what the NDIS is and some key points that were talked about in this podcast is, number one, you need to pre-plan your plan. You need to make sure that you understand what the NDIS is as well. And you need to understand what sort of core supports that would help my funding in terms of what I need. For example, with my disability, I need funding in my core supports and my physical transport movement type of supports. But they will be included in the booklet that you get with your NDIS. Number two is to make sure that you have specific people that know your condition, and they can write down the worst possible case scenarios so you get the best funding available. Yes, it's harsh, but it's the only way to go.
Yeah.
And number 3 is to talk to your parents, talk to group advisors, talk to people who know about the NDIS, and maybe they can help give you ideas on how to improve your plan. And number 4 would be try to enjoy it, because it is a new chapter in your life and you need to move on with the times, and you need to sort of like understand that this is not a punishment, this is a benefit for you. So this is Storm Robbins signing off, and I'd like to thank Joan for coming on.
Thank you.
And Catherine as well.
The co-host.
And the co-host, Catherine. Bye bye everyone.